I'm bringing back my Infinite Cataclysm from Season 5. Ultimate's got several buffs for Season 7. And to make sure the build works for you at every stage of the game, I've created an early game, mid game, and end game version just for you guys. Now, if you enjoy my content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm also live at twitch.tv/screamheart. Now, the nice thing about Cataclysm is that you can just cast it and it will kill things for you. But that's also the downside. So not only does this build require a little bit of setup in order to make it as powerful as possible, but it can traditionally get pretty boring. But I've added a twist to the build, which is the aspect of electrified claws. So we're not only using the ultimate, but we're also going to be going back and forth shapeshifting in order to create additional bolts. This also means that enemies are going to be stunned constantly. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In the early game version of the build, you're going to be using legendary aspects instead of unique items. And because we don't have our Tempest Roar, we're not going to be using our shapeshifting. This early game setup is going to utilize Lightning Storm, and we'll pair that with Earth Spike, not only for resonance, but it just works better in the early game. So for the early game version of the build, you're going to cast your Hurricane, cast your Cataclysm, then you're going to use Earth Spike and Lightning Storm back and forth in order to build up Spirit and then spend it. Your main source of damage will still be your Cataclysm, but your Lightning Storm is going to help fill that gap, because we're not going to have perfect cooldown early in the game. Debilitating Roar is going to act as a defensive option and also an offensive option. Earth and Bulwark is going to help us with CC. We're going Gift of the Stag for extra Spirit, Scythe Talons for extra critical hit, Avian Wrath for critical damage, Calamity to extend our ultimate, and Overload to apply poison. Overload can be swapped out once we have the ability to apply poison with our Witchcraft spells. We're using Hectic to get more ult cooldown, Disobedience to make up for some early game armor, Runeworker's Conduit, which is in every version of the build, Aspect of Might for more defenses, Aspect of Slaughter for more movement speed, Apogeic Furor for more ultimate damage, and this is in every version of the build, Retaliation for more core damage, Lightning Dancer so we can get more bolt damage from our Lightning Storm, and Natural Balance, which will work well with our Earth Spike and our Lightning Storm. Now I'm going to save my runes and witchcraft powers for after I show you the other versions of the build. So in the mid game, once we start picking up uniques, particularly Tempest Roar, we're going to be shifting over to a different version of the build. In this version, we're using Claw and Pulverize so that we can alternate back and forth and get bolts for our electrified claws. At this point, hopefully you've got your runes, which will allow you to do your setup in order to get your ultimate to overpower and critical strike. I'll talk more about the runes in a minute. We're also going Iron Feather instead of our critical strike chance because we don't actually need Scythe Talons when we're getting guaranteed crits from our runes. We also shouldn't need the poison from Overload anymore because our Witchcraft powers should have it covered. So here we can go Masochistic because now we're shapeshifting. So like I said, we're using Tempest Roar and that's going to make our ultimate into a werewolf ability. We're using Mad Wolf's Glee, which will buff our werewolf abilities. Still using Runeworker's Conduit. We're using Stormshifters now because we're actually using shapeshifting skills. Flicker Step's going to help us with our ult cooldown. And that's very important because we need to cast our ultimate again before it runs off in order to maintain our bonuses such as Overpower and Critical Strike. We're still using Apogeic Furor. We've got the aspect of Electrified Claws. Erida's Inexorable Will, which is going to pull enemies in when we use our ultimate, but it's also giving us a lot of ultimate cooldown reduction and willpower, which are both very important for the build. Willpower is what scales our Runeworker's Conduit and our overpowers. We're running Mjolnir Ring. This is very important because it's going to allow our ultimate to take on the lightning bolt bonuses. It also increases our damage and gives us willpower, not to mention extend the length of our ultimate. Now I'm going to let you click on the link below the video in order to see the endgame version for yourself, but it's not super different, it just has more to it. The main difference is that the chest piece changes to the Shroud. But be careful with your Shroud of False Death because it can give you an overpower that will mess up your ultimate. For our runes, we're running Back and Cax, as well as Igni and Zahn. Cax is going to double our damage, and Zahn is going to give us our guaranteed critical strikes and overpower. Now I'm actually going to go through the gameplay loop now because it's important with the runes. So first off, we're shapeshifting with Claw and Pulverize back and forth to stack Quick Shift. We're going to be casting our Hurricane to activate Stormshifter's aspect, and it's important to use this before the point that you have your runes active, otherwise it will eat the runes. You're going to get your Igni close to max, and then you only want to use Claw because you don't want to burn your Zan on other abilities. You'll use your Earth and Bulwark to activate Resonance and also activate Igni. You're going to move around and that's going to use Bach to activate your Cax. As soon as both of your runes are ready to go, you're going to cast your ultimate right away. Once your ultimate is active, you're going to start moving through the dungeon, evading through enemies to reset your cooldown with your Flicker Step. You're going to want to alternate between Claw and Pulverize in order to trigger those bolts from the Electrified Claws. It's also going to trigger your Ancestral Guidance, reduce enemy damage with the Pulverize, and also trigger procs of Bad Omen. You can use your Debilitating Roar anytime you need it to reduce enemy damage or increase your own, and save Earth and Bulwark in case you need it for CC. Now for your gems, we know that willpower is very important, so anywhere in your armor that you're not using runes, you're going to be using willpower, which is Sapphire by the way. On our accessories, we're going to use Toadling's Wish, Friend of the Bog, and Voice of the Stars. Toadling's Wish is going to be increasing our growth and decay skills, which we have 3 of. And Friend of the Bog requires us having 3 of those growth and decay skills in order to get extra primary stat, maximum life, and always be unhindered. And then Voice of the Stars is going to give our ultimate the different tags from the Witchcraft skills, and also deal more damage. Those tags are important because things like Purging Touch are going to allow our abilities to do more damage if they have the tags. Soul Harvest is going to give us a bunch of our willpower. Aura of Siphoning is going to keep us healed. Decay and Augmentation is going to keep enemies poisoned. And Vengeful Spirit is going to help keep us protected so that our health stays high for those nice overpowers. Now this is the skill tree for the mid game, but keep in mind for the early game version, I actually made sure to put the points in the order that was correct for leveling. So if you're starting with the build, make sure you follow that tree in the written guide. But the build most of you are going to end up being on is going to use Claw, going to Wild Claw, Pulverize, going to Primal Pulverize, Earthen Bulwark with Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, Backlash, Vigilance, Debilitating Roar with Innate Debilitating Roar, Nature's Reach, Feral Aptitude, Charged Atmosphere, Electric Shock, Bad Omen, Endless Tempest, Hurricane going to Savage Hurricane, Maxed Out Mending, Envenom, of course a maxed out ultimate and both points, Defiance, Natural Disaster, Resonance, Catastrophe, Quick Shift, couple points in Natural Fortitude, and our Keystone passive, Ursine Strength. For the most part, this is just going to be our skills and damage multipliers. If you ever feel like you need more survivability, don't be afraid to pull some points out of damage and put them into something that gives you damage reduction. And if you really want damage reduction, in the Paragon boards, you can always swap out one of your glyphs and go for Poise. We're shapeshifting a lot in this build, and Poise is going to give you a barrier constantly. So first up on the starter board, we're going with Keeper. We're going to move up from here. We're going to put Heightened Malice on, and this is going to be Spirit Glyph. We're moving to the left, putting Thunderstruck, and that's going to be using the Fang and Claw Glyph. Moving down from there, we're going with Ancestral Guidance. And this one's going to be the Electrocution Glyph. Keep in mind, if you're leveling up and you don't have a lot of boards, you definitely want to have the Electrocution Glyph on, so feel free to put it in the first board or wherever else it can fit. Finally, in the top right, we're going to be putting on our Lust for Carnage board, and here we're using Dominate. Make sure you click the link under the video and use the variation that works for you at your current spot in the game. My hope with this build is that it's a more fun version of Cataclysm, while also offering more boss damage and a little less jankiness. This is going to be my season starter, and I'll definitely make sure to get you guys updates as I go along. I'll also get some actual gameplay footage, because apparently my PTR gameplay footage cannot be found. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm also live right now at twitch.tv/streamheart, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Daddy Druid out.
Subscribe to Screamheart. He's more than an old fart. He makes lots of fun builds. I promise his streams chill. He should probably be faster. Come watch this disaster.